Everyone has played a game like Skyrim or Dark Souls before, but you've never heard someone play this. So picture Skyrim, but it's top-down, interchanges combat with something as frustrating as Dark Souls, except turn-based, and twists Skyrim's very normal story into something far more grotesque. A repulsive game where you torture and murder everything. Either way, so you know those moments when you sit around browsing Steam for more games to fill up your library of games, which you'll probably never play, but totally watch a YouTuber talk about for like 3 hours in a retrospective? Is this a furry puzzle game? Huh. Yeah, well, I was having one of those moments, and I was browsing around for a new Souls-like game to try or even play, which is when I ran across a game called Black Souls. I mean, the art looked... Okay, I'm gonna be honest, it kind of looks like shit, but it is what it is. It reminded me of Dark Souls with the whole, legally distinct name. I mean, there's a bonfire and it's listed as a Souls-like, so I was bound to check it out, but what waits on the other side of this game can only be described as one of the most repulsive, horrifying, and weird things you'll ever hear about, which is why I spent $10 on it, because, hey, what's the worst that could happen? I'm just gonna sit here and tell you about, the game's story, the gameplay, and dear God. As we awaken, we face off against a girl named Alice. She's blonde, and she's our introduction to the game's world and story. She offers us one of 3 classes to play as, though they don't really matter at the end of the day. However, the thing that does matter here is she mentions a specific question to us. Do we wish to play this game with cardinal acts on or off? Now, to put it bluntly, this just means sexual stuff available to us or not. I initially choose not to, however, this decision will be reversed later to get the full experience, which, I warn you, is beyond fucked up. And that's not all. As we talk to her, we also get to choose a starting item. This is very similar to Dark Souls, which we'll talk more about later, before she suddenly blows up. That's definitely one way to start a game. We find ourselves now in a dungeon, again, instantly screaming Dark Souls to me, because we also get saved here by Jeanne d'Arc. I mean, she even refers to us as an undead, which is obviously what you are in Dark Souls as well. She also says that a fog has spread across the entirety of this kingdom, and she wants to figure out what the source of it is. Following her, we can get to the outside, where we can take on our first few enemies, which, to be fair, I'm going to talk about the combat later, but for now, we reach the edge of the castle, where we watch Jeanne d'Arc pretty much just get burnt to a crisp. Yep, she's dead right away, and she even dies pretty gruesomely, to say the least. Either way, this is our first introduction to a proper boss fight. Now, this giant wyvern, dragon, whatever you want to call it, is essentially unkillable. There is no way for us to defeat it, but it's also our introduction to a core principle of this game, which is you're going to die a lot. And I really mean a lot.
Came here too? Nah, I guess I was carried here, is a better way to put it. No worries. This isn't the Netherworld. This is a place only those who became wanderers may enter. A landing spot of sorts. I see. Seems like there's something you ought to do, right? Maybe you're hoping to save the world, or maybe rule all of mankind. Doesn't matter to me either way. But if you got souls to trade, I'll help you. Oh, and do find Leaf before leaving. She's not like the other fairies. I'm sure she'll be of use for you.
After our little conversation with the Black Rabbit, we learn that he's the Prayer Master, the person we go to exchange souls, which we pick up from defeating enemies, in exchange for levels to make us stronger. There's also a bonfire, as well as literally multiple directions we can go into. And this is, again, where I want to take a moment and talk about how similar this game really is to Dark Souls. I mean, the name is only the beginning, but let's take a step back here. So, what are some of the Dark Souls similarities? For example, the entirety of this holy forest is essentially just Firelink Shrine. I mean, Literally, it's just Firelink Shrine. It's supposed to be melancholic and calm and all that. The entire leveling system in this game is based on souls. You gotta collect them from defeating enemies and then level up yourself to get better stats. This one guy who, I shit you not, if you talk to him, he is just a crestfallen warrior. He's literally even sitting right at, you know, what would be the equivalent of Firelink Shrine, the Holy Forest, and he tells you about the entire lore of what's happening, you know, that the world has gone to shit. And I personally, I'm gonna be honest, I kind of love it. I actually do love all the references. I think they're cool. And even the blacksmith, if you go down into like the southern part of the map, you find a blacksmith who, if you give him a bunch of ores, he will be able to upgrade your weapons. Again, just like in Dark Souls. Speaking of this dungeon though, there is also a room where you can actually find white sticky goo liquid, which is like a health potion, but it is exactly what you think it's exactly what you think it is, okay? We're not going to beat around the bush on this one. So yeah, there is loads of references and of course a lot of really messed up shit, but if we leave the actual Holy Forest and go north, we will meet our first companion named Leaf. She's a tiny little fairy or whatever you want to call it, and she's actually based on Tinkerbell, which is pretty evident because a lot of the characters in this entire game are all very much based on fairy tales, and you'll see more of that as we progress, but she's one of the first ones. However, she also tells us something really disturbing. She says the following.
You are free. I mean it. If you didn't like someone, feel free to kill them. If there's a girl you want, feel free to take her.
By force.
That definitely was a little bit strange. The fact that she's quite literally implying that we are allowed to do whatever we want makes me a little suspicious of her intentions. But for now, she joins us, and the interesting part is that unlike a game like Fear and Hunger, which I think is a fantastic game in this genre of, like, you know, messed up RPGs on Steam, you don't actually have your party members with you. Instead, your companions are people you have to summon into a fight, which means every time you go into a battle, you actually will have to waste at least one turn just summoning in a teammate. Though this may at first seem like just an annoying hassle, it actually becomes really important to the overall gameplay loop. And speaking of that gameplay loop, the combat. Now, I'll be honest, I actually love the combat in this game. The only thing though is that in the beginning, when you first start out, you're not going to notice it as well. However, when you reach the first few boss fights is when it truly shines. But before I could enjoy that, I had to actually get through this place, because this forest honestly made me crash the fuck out. So you might be wondering, what made the man crash out? Well, it was the graphics. I honestly could not get into the graphics of this game. If we compare it to Fear and Hunger, at least Fear and Hunger had a unique art style. Fear and Hunger looks interesting. It's all kind of hand-drawn and very specific. However, for whatever reason, Black Souls just literally looked like an actual asset reusal of the basic standard RPG Maker assets. What made it feel even worse was this forest, because everywhere around this forest, there's just random items, like just objects, a piano in the middle of the forest, a chair, a bunch of grain. It's all just in the middle of this place. At first, I just looked at it from the perspective of, oh, this is just somebody who doesn't know how to do map design, maybe. That's probably what I'm looking at here, and it's just somebody who doesn't really know how to properly organize a place. However, there's kind of a purpose to this, and it has to do with the overall plot of this game. You see, this entire game's world is corrupted. Everything is practically going to shit, and this has a very close connection potentially to how this forest was the purpose behind it being so confusing, because all we're seeing is a twisted world, and as such, things are not going to be in the right place. At least that's the headcanon I have, or maybe I'm completely wrong here, but that's the vibe I get. Though, along the way, there are some shimmering objects that we can see on the ground. Now, we can pick these up, and some of them will be literally breadcrumbs, I'm not even exaggerating, before we reach a strange house. There's a fog gate. Again, a la Dark Souls. I mean, literally so many Dark Souls references, and I love it. But as we enter, we encounter two interesting people. This is Hansel and Gretel. Now, they are, of course, from their own story, their own fairy tale, and they're simply just little children, but they have been turned into grotesque demon beasts. We now have the task of fighting them, and to be frank with you, I get completely fucking rolled, baby! When you take on a boss fight, like in this case, you will lose guaranteed the first few times, and it's intentional. It wants you to lose because every time you die in the game, you are given a black soul. Now, souls in this game, there's regular souls you pick up from defeating enemies, which you can level yourself up with, but there's also these red, blue, green, black, white souls, which you can use to boost your specific stats on your stat page. Now, the black soul, you always get one when you die in the game. That means that anytime you fight someone, you're always going to make progress and get a little bit stronger. And that's where the actual genius of this game lies. That constant sense of progression is literally what makes you keep playing. And that's what it did to me, because every time I got slightly closer to defeating Hansel and Gretel, it just made me want to come back and be like, nah, man, I got it this time. I got it this time, baby. And that's exactly what kept me playing. It's almost like gambling. You know you're so close. And you're like, nah, I'm gonna do this. I know I got this. I know I got this. And then you do it.
You actually defeat them. And it feels amazing. And I think this is what makes the actual fighting of this game and the loop of it genuinely entertaining. Now that we've taken down Hansel and Gretel, we can go down into the basement and find Dorothy. Now, the thing with Dorothy is she's obviously from no other story than Wizard of Oz itself. However, her story has been kind of mixed together with the actual, witch or whatever from Hansel and Gretel's story. Either way, she's actually a good guy, and she has a side quest for us if we wish to take part in it. This side quest, though, requires us to go out and hunt down her old friends. Her old friends, of course, being people like the Scarecrow, the Lion, and even the Tin Man. All of them are now grotesque demon beasts. They've been turned by the fog that's all around this place. And, well, if we want her as our companion, we need to go and take them down. This is an entire side quest that's also important if you want to get the game's true ending, but it is also kind of depressing. These people were her friends, and now they're just gone, essentially, and we have to go and quite literally kill them, but that's besides the point. Now, if we do add her as a companion, she can now join us, and with this, we can head back to the Holy Forest. So, once we're back in the Holy Forest, there are a few things that might stand out to you, because what the fuck is this? Okay, listen, I need to take a minute and talk about this right here. Now, yes, this game has a rape mechanic. There is no other way to put it. It's in the game. I cannot mince my words around it. It's part of the game. And I would actually say that's the main reason I put the word repulsive in the title of this video, because it is by far the most repulsive part about this game. I don't think I need to explain to you why it's repulsive. I don't think I need to go into detail for why that being here is repulsive. But I will, though, say that you might question, of course, is it necessary for this game? Does this need to exist for the game to be playable, or for the game to still be a good game, or a game at all to begin with? Well, I'm going to say this. It is logical to the story. Like, the further in we get, and especially towards the end of the game, it will make a little bit more sense. So it is necessary for the implications of the overarching story of this game. But I still think you can completely remove this, and you will still get, like, a similar experience, though it's not going to be as, well, repulsive or visceral, if you want to put it that way. So, do I think it's necessary? No. What happens if you click it? What the fuck do you think happens? Of course, it's the thing that it literally says. But there is another element to this, and that's the second option, which is feed. Now, feed is a bit different, whereas the first option, that one, when you do it, obviously you're doing something wrong, there's no other way to put it, but it does actually come with consequences. It gives you a sin, right? And every time you do it, you commit a sin. And there is an in-game sin counter, which you can only remove by talking to this one dude who will remove it for you, but generally speaking, if you do commit to it too much, you will be hunted down by an organization known as the Black Trial. This is a group that goes hunting down sinners. So there is a consequence to it. There actually is a genuine consequence, but there is no consequence for feed, because feed is exactly what you think it is. You pound the shit out of your companions. You You give them the good old nasty, okay? Why do you do this? Well, this is your only way of leveling up your companions. Is it a necessity? Not really. You can completely skip this feature as well, though it will make you an easier target in fights because you're going to be essentially soloing everything. With companions, it makes it a bit easier because having them alongside you just makes life less harsh. And given the fact that this is not a particularly hard game, I will be honest, thanks to the fact that you have the Black Souls, this item that keeps dropping, it does make the overall progression much, much easier. It makes it so much smoother to get past everything, frankly speaking. But I will say that this mechanic caught me off guard when I first saw it. However, using it and doing these, well, acts, if you want to call them that, like the cardinal acts of this game, if you actually play the game uncensored, it does give you more context on a lot of the story. Like, in these interactions is where a lot of the lore of the game is actually hidden, which is really annoying because I honestly don't want to sit through this stuff. It is just off-putting, okay? It's just off-putting. And I do wish the game could still introduce these things, like, without having the wholly overtly, sexual stuff in there. I think it actually detracts at time, but at the same time, it does again tie into the overarching plot, which is why it's intertwined with those parts of the game. But again, I'm going to move on to the next thing, which is we eventually enter the dungeon underground. This place is filled with rats and even Pied Piper. You may know his little fairy tale. Again, a cool little fairy tale reference, except here he is straight up evil. At least that's how he's portrayed. He just seems evil. He's even actually caused massive damage to other places, which we'll reach later. However, walking past him and the entire place being filled with fucking rats, which are just the most annoying enemies, we eventually reach Rottenburg. It is a city filled with grotesque mutilated women in all shapes and forms, and they essentially want to get our bodies. We also have a weird moment here with Leaf where she asks us, who do we want to take part in some nasty business, which I don't know why she keeps trying to push in this direction. It's weird, but it's there. However, this place does contain some interesting stuff, okay? There is some weird things that do take place here. We find a brothel, which is known as Embryo's Dream, where I can actually decide to, well, just take these dudes out who are here, because I thought, fuck it, why not? I mean, these dudes seem like weirdos. The way they're talking about people and these women in the city, it just kind of pissed me off, so I just kind of killed them, which in itself is committing a sin in this game. So technically I wasn't meant to do that, but it's besides the point. It's an option. The game gives you that option, right? Either way, we do have a few things here though, which is in this case the ability to, well, take part in these actions of the brothel if we want to. There is an entire brothel mechanic, if you catch my drift, which how is that even a thing in a game? Either way, Rottenburg, we also do have to go around here to eventually find the House of Truth, where the mayor of the town, at least that's what I think he is found. This dude is here, but he's abusing his servants.
That hurts. Please forgive any more and you'll tear me in half.
Annoying. Will every woman turn useless so quickly?
So after watching him smash the life out of his subordinates, we take him on in a fight. Also, Leaf then calls him a weirdo because the dude's butt naked at like one point in the fight, so...
Huh? Why is this weirdo naked?
Huh?
Blue, look, he's naked. No shave at all.
What are you saying? I'm great. I've got impregnable armor.
The king is naked. Lame.
Once we summon her in, she does do these little quips, which is kind of funny. But if we manage to beat him, though, in a fight, which does take a while, I'm not gonna lie, I do have to do some grinding at first. But once we do take him down, we can now move forward towards Fort Ivorn, the same place we lost Jeanne d'Arc, but also where we will find and face off against that giant Hellkaiser Drake once more. So, you know how a second ago I said this game isn't particularly hard? Never fucking mind. This is the most challenging fight up until this point. But again, thanks to those Black Souls you get after each loss, it makes the overall difficulty of the game far lower than that of like something like Fear and Hunger, which has like, just as a game, I do think Fear and Hunger is harder, but it's harder because of it loving it to punish you, right? Like, that's a game that just loves to punish you far more, and you constantly have to lose runs just purely based on bad luck. With Black Souls, it's far less punishing in gameplay because there's nothing about luck. It's really something you can easily plan out how you approach things. You don't have to rely on a coin flip to be able to win a fight. You can just win purely on having better stats and just a tiny bit of RNG on your side, which even that is not necessary. If you're just a little bit stronger, you'll most likely win, which is very different and makes the overall experience feel less punishing, but at the same time a lot more smooth, I would say. Like, it feels a little less stressful as you're playing it. However, after dying to the Hellkaiser Drake one too many times, I visit the match shop in Rottenburg. This is a place I completely missed the first time I walked through this place, but here I meet the match seller Elma. She sells some matches, but the most particular part about her is that we can actually recruit her as a companion. Now, this would require us to kill the Pied Piper and her mother being abusive as far as we can tell, and us killing her mother stops, well, Elma from being the next victim of the mother. Also, Pied Piper ends up getting to her eventually if we don't deal with him. So, kind of overlooked recruiting a lot of these teammates in my first playthrough and just focus on progressing more and more. As such, I'm gonna be real with you, it was easy to overlook all these intriguing people along the way, and Elma, well, she's kind of one of them, okay? Like, she's kind of one of them, and I ended up not recruiting her into my team the first time around, and unfortunately, she suffered the consequences of my ignorance, but it is something that does happen, and I will be telling you right now, I really recommend playing the game yourself if you want to see all the interactions, because there are a lot of characters in this game. There's so many people you can recruit in so many different interactions. It is really filled with a lot of content. However, if we now return to the Hellkaiser Drake a little bit stronger, and this time we can actually take him on. If we do defeat him, we can go deeper into the castle. Here we meet the Wandering Knight Izu. Now, this dude basically serves kind of a similar purpose to that of, you know, like the different knights you can meet throughout the different Souls games? Well, basically, think of like Solera of Astora would be like the closest thing. They appear throughout the journey several times, and at the core of them, they are supposed to be sort of virtuous. And this man is a prince, and I think one of the sons of one of the 4 demonic princesses. I don't know which one. You guys can tell me in the comment section down below, but he's related to one of them, and he sort of reappears a few times along the journey, overall having a pretty bad fate. Nonetheless, though, he's not super important, as we instead reach the north part of the Lost Kingdom castle, where we meet Beauty LaBelle.
A filthy undead. Your kind isn't welcome at Lady Cinderella's ball. Be as the undead should and dance with the demon beasts. Filth.
Who calls us filthy before summoning some soldiers to fight us. Of course, she is going to be important a little bit later, but if we beat them and take down all these guards, we can find ourselves at the front gate of the castle, which is completely closed down. There's a stone tablet which tells us that we need to slay 4 princesses or be bound by covenants to unlock the gate. Covenant just being us marrying and pounding the shit out of the princesses, for the lack of a better word. So, with this knowledge, we now know what to do. It's kind of similar to how Dark Souls has you hunting for like the 2 bells, which is one is on the top and one is down below. And here in this case, we're actually hunting for 4 princesses as our kind of guiding focus. I would actually say this game is more similar to Dark Souls 2 than Dark Souls 1 in a lot of ways, especially this part, because I do feel like this reminds me a little bit more about like the kind of like main goal you have in Dark Souls 2. Either way, now that we've done that, we are back in the Holy Forest where we meet a group. We have a saint, her guardian, and another knight all in a party. They seem to be looking for something, but we're not going to really be able to join them, so we let them go. There's also a boat now, like right on the beachfront, and if we try to take it, okay, all right, giant eye monster. Yeah, there are quite a few Eldritch level creatures in this game, and it is definitely really weird because the game does kind of mix in a lot of weird things, like the fact that you have Dark Souls, you have fairy tales, and you have a Lovecraftian beings. Like, yes, that's an entire thing in this game. Like, this entire world has undertones of Lovecraft in it, which will appear throughout if you haven't already noticed. So, at this point, I'm not exactly sure where I'm supposed to go, so I decide, you know what, fuck it, let's head down south, which is where we reach a town called Graveyard Town Elixir. Now, this is flooded with all manner of monsters and creatures after all the humans abandoned the place. We also found an old man referencing the town being overran by rats, which I guess we can guess was caused by Pied Piper, but also he mentions the name of someone particular. He says Mary Sue, the creator, which is odd, because in writing terms, Mary Sue would be a female character most of the time that is written to be amazing and absolutely flawless without any reason or rhyme, oftentimes being a sort of self-insert by a writer trying to make a character that's just amazing at everything, with like Gary Stu being the male version of that. I think there's a few other ways of calling it, but overall, Mary Sue is a character that is meant to just be overly good at everything, omnipotent, so powerful beyond like that of a god. So it's really weird to see this being mentioned, and who is this Mary Sue is the big question, right? Either way, in one of the houses, we can meet a Black Arbiter. His name is Hain, and he belongs to the Black Trial, who again hunt sinners, but since we haven't sinned, well, too many times just yet, he actually is able to sell us Black Souls, and if you're trying to boost your stats quickly, it's a great thing. So just go grind for some souls, and this way you can just boost all your stats very easily. However, further north lays the cathedral. Inside it is a person named Nello. If we try to speak to them, well, he's trying to communicate with his dog, Patrice, but it goes horribly wrong.
Patrice, don't shiver so much. We'll live together far, far away on the edge of the world.
This is another fairy tale. And as we watch Nello, he gets devoured and crushed by his doggy. Now, this is a fairy tale known as A Dog of Flanders. It's about a boy and his dog in Flanders, Belgium, which, by the way, is where I live currently. And also, it's kind of, well, I'm going to just spoil it right now for you guys, but in that book, just like in that book, Nello dies in a cathedral next to his beloved dog Patrice after a journey of constant suffering. Makes you really wonder how the heck these stories would be told to children, given how genuinely heartbreaking and terrifying some of them are. Even downright disturbing things are written within them. But in that story, both of them perish. And in this case, the boy has perished, and now we take down his dog too. So yeah, with both the dog and the boy dead, we leave and head towards the Great Wilhelm Bridge to the west of here, where, holy shit, is that the Hellkaiser Drake again? Yeah, similar to something like, I don't know, Dr. X or Crowmauler from Fear and Hunger, this fucker will seemingly not give up and keeps pursuing us without a care in the world. So yes, the Drake is back again, and this time we can beat the hell out of him once more. But if we do take him down, which I will say he's easier now than the first time, we will now find ourselves in the Tainted Bog, where the ground is all poison and a giant eye monster hunts us as we traverse through it. I will also say there is a ring you can find, which will reduce the damage you take from the poison, which I don't know where that ring is, but you can find it. It's, again, similar to the rings you can use in Dark Souls 1 to get through, like, the lava area. But it's a little bit strange as we go through this place, because eventually I reach a dead end where the lust demon Satyr is found, and this dude wants to copulate with us. Which, yeah. This is a bit of an issue since he's blocking our path. So for now, instead of fighting this thing, because it's extremely powerful, I return back to the Holy Forest to just go in a few other directions. Like, again, this is kind of the best part about this game, I would say, is that if you get stuck in one area, just go back to the Holy Forest and explore somewhere else, because you might be going in the right direction, but not just yet. You may have to come back there a little bit later. And because you can use the bonfires to teleport, it makes it so easy and less stressful and busy work. Now, as we've dealt with that, we can now head back to the Holy Forest, and we go in a few different directions. This time, we actually go back to the cathedral, and instead of going west, we instead go east, where we found the Skeleton Maze entrance. Now, this place sucks ass to deal with, because it features the same type of wheel skeletons you would find in Dark Souls, but also, of course, in Berserk, which is where the inspiration is from, if you know what I mean. Nonetheless, though, this maze is, well, a maze, and I do get lost a few times before eventually discovering something interesting. We find that party from the Holy Forest. However, the two men of the party have gone and became demon beasts. They now want to do heinous things to the maiden which they were meant to protect, and she herself is now knocked out on the ground, and so our only option is to protect her by taking her former friends down. We can kill them, and this is our way of saving her. Doing this will allow us to essentially recruit her and at least get her to safety as one of our companions. However, the Skeleton Maze also holds one very important person, and that is a shaman named Keto. If we provide him with some items, he can actually bring someone back to life for us, that being Jeanne d'Arc. Now, to do this, we're going to need her ashes, which we already have, but also something known as a Kraken's tentacle. Now, if we wish to revive her, we're going to have to go and find those things. So, for now, I just forget about that and instead dive deeper into the skeleton maze, where I end up facing off against a small army of skeletons in the form of a boss fight. Yeah, that all kind of happens very quickly. But beating the skeleton boss takes us to this empty beach, and as the name implies, it is, well, empty. Or is it? I don't know. You tell me. For now, though, since I again do not know where to go, where do I go? Well, Holy Forest, because again, ladies and gentlemen, it's the one and only place you can go to if you are lost. Here, though, in the forest, we find a lady, but also Chaplain Eswald, who is, well, the guy who can remove our sins, I guess, like the sin mechanic in some ways, like being cursed in Dark Souls, or at least like something similar to that. It feels like that, at least at times, because you're going to be hunted. I would actually say it's kind of similar to the invasions of Dark Souls, like especially Dark Souls 2, right? Is that if you get sinned too many times, you are eventually going to get hunted by the Black Trial. Similar to how in Dark Souls 2, where you don't necessarily have to sin or do anything bad for it to happen, but you will constantly get invasions. So it's kind of similar to that, but yet different. Either way, in the forest, there's also a small boss fight against the beanstalk named Jack. I think this was kind of a combination of two things in one. But if you guys haven't noticed already, we seem to be collecting also fairy tales, because each time we take one of these little bosses down in battle, we also just get their actual fairy tale in the form of a book in our inventory. So the story of Jack and the Beanstalk is another one we just received from defeating this enemy. We also find the Tortoise Knight Adaman. Now, he seems to be close to death when we find him. However, he does actually take part in a dual quest line where him, the Tortoise Knight, and the Hare Knight are both beefing with each other and both plan to kill each other. If you want to get their like specific fairy tale book for our collection or whatever, we kind of need to kill them, I guess, right? But funny enough, these two actually remind me very much of Creighton and Pate from Dark Souls 2. Like in that game, those two guys function essentially as two optional side quests, where if you complete each of their quests, they will eventually meet in the middle and fight each other to the death. And if you help one or the other, you receive their armor and or gear, which is kind of cool. Or you can kill both and just do it that way instead, but nonetheless, it is an option. So, for now, though, we are on the hunt for the Kraken Tentacle, and to find it, we head into the Sea of Trash. That's a literal name, by the way, where we eventually, after suffering past a ton of poison water, find ourselves facing off against something very, very particular. The Trash Lord Kraken. It is a grotesque creature that has consumed so much trash and has turned this whole place and this part of land into, well, a poisonous trash pile. This is also one of the things I do like about the game. There are some insanely cool designs for some of the enemies. Like the actual boss art looks cool. I don't know if the creator of these games, Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, and yes, that is actually the name of the creator of these games, actually made these designs themselves, because they are freaking cool looking. Like they actually look so sick. And it's kind of a little bit like jarring, because at times you will notice that you have like the NPC art, like the art of any of the NPCs you deal with, like any of your companions, that looks like really crudely drawn on like paper. Like that art looks so crude, but then you have the art of the enemies that looks super hyper realistic and really, really detailed and everything. And I'm just like, this is throwing me for a loop. This is gonna be like art whiplash or some shit. But either way, if we kill the Kraken, we'll receive the Kraken Tentacle that we need to revive our little friend Jean d'Arc. But for now, I actually end up deciding to just explore the farm to the east a bit further instead. This is the Behemoth Ranch. Now, this farm contains a wide variety of things to do. For one, we can actually find the Tin Man side quest boss fight. This is the Tin Man you need to kill in case you want to, well, recruit Dorothy. This is where that one is done. This is also one of the freaking places where you fight the Bremen musician animals. It's basically a band of animals, and it's yet another tale, this one written by a German author about a group of animal musicians. Here, however, these guys have just gone completely insane and became demonic beasts that just eat everything in their way. So we just end their suffering swiftly, gaining in the process another fairy tale book, theirs in this case. The farm also contains the Golden Goose. However, this goose beats the shit out of us, which wasn't very fun. However, if we had taken our time, there's an entire side quest to recruit the goose, and she'll become one of our companions. Either way, now that we have the Kraken Tentacle, we should go back and revive Jean. But first, I checked the beachfront at the Holy Forest when suddenly a cutscene plays where, weird stuff takes place once again.
there's some weird stuff with Leaf. I don't really want to talk about it. Either way. Now, though, we can actually go back and revive Jeanne d'Arc. However, we are told she might not be exactly the same as she was before death, which makes sense as we are bringing someone back from certain death, someone that shouldn't be walking amongst the living. In a real-world scenario, that would be horrifying, and our choice to bring her back, is it one out of kindness or greed? Like, why do we want her to return? But I choose to do it anyways. So, with Jeanne back, she is grateful and joins us as a companion, and that means we can, of course, feed her. Or use the other feature, but her being brought back does feel sort of sickly and wrong just across the board. Now, heading back to the farm known as Behemoth Ranch, we find a fog gate. This one, however, is a strange battle. We first fight the Hyena of Hunger, that being the wolf that went after the 3 little goats, but Leaf even makes a funny joke asking if this specific wolf is the one that actually eats little goats or eats little grannies, referencing, I guess, the overuse of wolves in fairy tales as villains that specifically eat other animals or hunt like little piggies or whatever, or, you know, when they're used as sort of like the end-all be-all bad guy. Which is kind of interesting. Seems a little fucked up to always have a wolf as a villain in these stories, but it's besides the point. Now that we've figured this out, we can actually find a letter belonging to one of the little goats that lived here, and it speaks of Behemoth, a creature living here who seems to not be satisfied with the fodder that they've been feeding him. Like, they've been giving him stuff or people or other creatures to eat, but now they all seem to be dead because Behemoth has gone loose. So, we go and seek for him. So further north, we find Jacob's disused mine. Inside, there is a dying warrior who asks for our help. However, I kind of forget to get him the medicine that he's needed, and when I come back later, he is, well, nothing more than a corpse. Now, what does await us once we exit the mines, though, is none else than the creature Behemoth himself. However, it's also really odd how Leaf makes a joke. Is this one from All Monsters Attack? Which is a direct reference to the Kaiju Godzilla movie from Japan, which is like such an odd thing for Leaf to say because she's breaking the fourth wall, and she does that many times. Something our other companions like Jeanne or Dorothy never seem to do, which really catches me off guard. But we even almost beat the Behemoth, but he does take us down. However, this time when we lose, when we return back for our second retry fight, he's gone. Yeah. We instead gain access to the valley behind him, the place we were trying to get to, which he was blocking, which is known as Valley Checkpoint Zone, but it's completely devastated, most likely due to Behemoth running amok around here. But it's interesting how the fact that we lost to him meant that he's gone now, we can't fight him. It's really weird. So yeah, instead, now that we've gained access to this place, we decide to go through it, and eventually we reach Gothel's Tower, a large building with broken down sections and winding floors. And as we climb it, we encounter a few different things. Not really any demon beasts, just a bunch of items, but also a quick boss fight against none other than Peter Pan. Yeah, he has now become a monster himself. He is no longer the Peter Pan you know from the Disney movies. He is instead a creep, and he loves Leaf, baby! Whereas she simply says she hates him. We do kill him, though, which makes her happy, but yeah, what's going on? Why is Peter Pan evil? Like, not that I remember, I just know the Disney version of his retelling, so I don't know, was he bad in the fairy tales? Either way, we eventually keep going. Before reaching the top of the tower, though, Leaf does tell us that a princess resides here. She's one of the 4 that we need to take down and defeat in battle, so there's only one thing to do. We have to climb the tower and finally face off against her. Or at least that's what I thought, because once we reach the top, it's Behemoth again. Yeah, turns out that if we had actually beaten Behemoth on our first try earlier in the game, it wouldn't have actually destroyed this entire place, but unfortunately, because we didn't take him down, he ends up destroying this place and killing the princess himself, which means that we now have to grind and take him down on our own. However, if we do this and take him down, we can find a book behind him. It's the fairy tale of Rapunzel, which is on the chair. And it makes sense. We're in the Gothel Tower. This is where her hair would have been, strewn about for a prince to climb. Now, again, if we had simply taken Behemoth down, we would have been able to face her first. Instead, we would also have been able to enter into covenant with her or whatever, or kill her. But with that knowledge and things sorted out, we can now make our way back
towards the Holy Forest, because, ladies and gentlemen, there is still a few things we need to do. See, we should be strong enough now to take that boat and head towards the west. This is where that giant eyeball Lovecraftian creature was waiting for us previously, so we take it down because we are 10 times stronger and beat it without any issues. We, at the end of this place, find a house. This one belonging to Red Hood, or Red Riding Hood. Interestingly, Red Hood is actually a prequel game to Black Souls 1, so her being here isn't that strange, I guess, but we are prompted to either wake her up or do, again, this game just loves giving really fucked up and repulsive things for you to do as options, but we're going to ignore that and instead wake her up. So, doing this though, she yells at us and basically just forces us to fuck off. And we do exactly that, instead just checking the backyard of her house where we find a bird. Now this thing is where we can exchange these candies that we picked up along our journey for a different stat boosting item or crafting. With nothing more to do in this zone, we go back and instead head back to Behemoth Ranch, because here we can take an underpass entering into a giant desert, the Helsa Desert. This place is huge, and you really struggle when you're going around because you're going to encounter a lot of different things, and it's just very vast and open. But if we are lucky, there is another underpass here which can take us to a new location. This time it's an icy kingdom. I'm not exactly sure how the heck a desert and an icy tundra can exist right next to each other like this, but whatever, I guess. Now, this is the Garden of Snow, and it's where we will find another princess. This time it's going to be Snow White, and, well, we can actually find her prince right here. We can talk to him, and I think we can even, like, exchange some items, but he doesn't seem to be doing very well. Though, deeper in the castle, we can eventually find Snow White herself. Now, she looks sort of sickly and pale, and as I speak to her, I'm given the first time the option to enter a covenant. Again, this feature, just gonna let you pound the princess, and that's it. So, yeah. Or we simply kill her, because what she asks us to do for us to enter her covenant is literally just evil. It is to kill Rapunzel, the mermaid, and the frog, which are the other princesses, so why does it matter? Those are all like the other princesses, and if I'm going to kill them anyways, I'm not going to do it just to enter a covenant with her, so I simply take her on in a boss fight. Now, it's actually easier than I would have thought, though she does have a second phase, as do many other bosses in Black Souls, but luckily for me, her defeat is something that isn't too difficult, and we now only need 2 more princesses slain before we can reach the end of this game. Or at least that's what I thought. Now, her castle also contains a strange room, which is the rabbit hole. This is also where the game's leveling and difficulty curve completely fucking breaks. Now, see, if you enter this place, the rabbit hole, which I guess is the world where, Alice and, the Wonderland. It's basically Wonderland, okay? Once you enter it, you can find these white rabbits. Now, the thing with these guys is that they drop an insane amount of souls for each one you take down, and you get around like 10,000 souls, which makes grinding insanely easy. But here's the twist, right? If you want to take down one of the rabbits, you get 10,000, like I said, 10,000 souls per rabbit, but if you do not kill them all in one single hit, like everyone all at once with an AoE ability, they will all run away instead from you. So the game does make this really smooth because you can take advantage of this with magical moves such as Soul Discharge. You can easily just spam Soul Discharge, and this will hit multiple targets. Like, you can even hit all of them if you're lucky, but most of the time you can hit like 3 or 2. But if you hit all of them, you can be making, like, per each, like, group of these rabbits, you could easily be making 20, 30, like, 1,000 souls each time, which is easily spammable continuously over and over again, and just a great way for you to just grind souls. And this is basically what breaks the entire flow of the game, okay? Because if you were struggling up until now, this completely stops that. Like, you're not going to struggle anymore, and if you decided to play the game in such an order that you actually went here first before you went, like, up to Dorothy and all those guys and went down into, like, the skeleton maze, if you actually went this direction first, you're going to be so broken so early on. And you bet your ass I took advantage of this. Like, obviously I would. Why wouldn't I? But deeper inside of the rabbit hole, we also find a few different things. The riverside bank, here we can find a corpse, or at least I think it's a corpse. I mean, it's speaking to us. Now, this is Miranda. At least, I think that's what her name is. She's actually the daughter of a very particular character, a character who leads the Black Trial, and she was raised to also be part of this group, but now she's found herself here, and she can actually become one of our companions if we help her. But again, like I said, I did not bother with this in my original playthrough, which is what I'm showing you here. However, I would recommend, like I said, if you play the game yourself, definitely interact with all the characters and try to do all their side missions, because it is rewarding in the end and you get a bigger context for the lore. By the way, back into the desert we return, where this time there is a giant dark void that finds us. Now this one is called Jinn Aladdin, obviously based on Aladdin and his story, though the Jinn part is perhaps just referring to the Arabic way of saying genie, or rather the original word for genie, which is where it derives from. So we can take him down too, which gives us another one of the fairy tale books. And after beating him, we can also climb a strange pyramid where we find a new weapon, that being the partisan, a spear with a wide spearhead. I also get completely caught off guard by one very particular thing, a chest. Yeah, see, it's a mimic. And yes, the game has mimics, but up until now, every chest I've opened has been fine. There's been no danger, but suddenly, I now have to worry about chests potentially not even being real and simply being a mimic in disguise waiting to eat my ass, which I think is pretty cool, of a bit of like a, a little subversion of expectations, if you know what I mean. But either way, for a while here, I do get lost until I eventually discover the tea party room down in the rabbit hole again. And I try to take on, well, a few different things, right? I try to see what's on the gate. There is something, I think it's called like a Bandersnatch, this creature that I try to take on. Doesn't really go well. I also discover and find a satyr again, which I try to take on in battle, but again, doesn't really go as planned until eventually I remember something. What about that empty beach again? Like, what about that place? Because I picked up an item at Snow White's, which I think should allow me to enter that place, like some kind of letter, if I'm not mistaken. So I decided to go down to the empty beach, and would you guess it? We're now allowed to enter the underwater city of Atlantis, where we can also find Hotel Poseidon. Now here we can talk to the marionette boy Pinocchio, who, oh boy, how do I say this? He kind of killed Giuseppe, Giuseppe, who created him. He kind of killed him and then went fully fucking rogue. And he also tells us that this is the place for us to come to if we want to do, special things with our loved ones. In this case, if we want to make love to our companions. But the only way for us to leave, according to Pinocchio, is we have to either do the dirty deed or one of us has to die. This is actually the game's way of allowing you to actually kill your companions after recruiting them. So yeah, this is basically their method of allowing you to still have a way of being able to take out companions in the end. But eventually, I do find what I'm seeking, and that's an area called Inside Mermaid. Who fucking thinks of these naming schemes, okay? Like, why is it called like this? Either way, at the end of it, I find the Little Mermaid, and we again are prompted to either enter a covenant or kill her. Now, when I press the option to enter Covenant, I unfortunately got to see what I did not want to see. Let's just put it like that. But since I'm on a warpath, let her ride. Yeah, I just ended up killing her. That's it. Yeah, it is what it is. But with that battle finished, though, we have once more taken down another one of the princes, meaning that we have one more target left, and that is the Frog Princess. And this one is down in the Tainted Bog. But before her, we do try to take on the Satyr fight one more time. But beating him actually allows us to access what's called the entrance into darkness. Now, this cave leads us deeper and deeper inside until we reach a little creature called Softy Erin, telling us that we shouldn't enter further because this is where the Black Trial resides. This is their home, the group which hunts down sinners, meaning a massive challenge awaits us on the other side. And, well, they weren't fucking kidding, because there is no other place that's as challenging as this hellhole, because the darkness is filled with incredibly strong enemies. But what awaits towards the end of the fog gate here, the end of this place, on the other side, is the fucking Hellkaiser Drake again. This thing just doesn't give up, does it? Okay? Like, if we beat him in a final fight, we can finally be done with him. So after taking down the Hellkaiser Drake, we approach the final individual. That being the Black Judge Baphomet. Now, she's actually the one who took care of Miranda, who we found down in, like, you know, the whole, like, rabbit place, the rabbit hole. She is the leader of the Black Trial, and first, she seems kind of intimidating, but turns out this, you know, whole place is kind of just her pretending, right? Like, she's pretending to not really be chill, but she actually seems like a overall good guy. At least that's what it sort of portrayed to us. She asks us for a request, though. She wants us to go out and kill a bunch of sinners, including Pinocchio, and we can complete this task, or we can kill her. Again, I really just do love making bad decisions, but the most odd part about this fight is when I summon Leaf into the fight, Baphomet actually recognizes her and is shocked by the presence, but Leaf seems to act as if she doesn't know her, which is weird. But Baphomet is not easy to beat to such an extent that I actually just kind of give up at some point. I was like, you know what? She's not even one of the 4 princesses. I mean, as far as I can recall, she isn't. So why am I dealing with her? I mean, let me go find the Frog Princess instead. And it turns out she's not even far from here. She's in the Tainted Bog. So heading there, we can find her. And finding her, she seems pretty chill, actually. She's just seeking a prince of her own, and she thinks I'm a prince. Instead, I'm just the guy who came to, well, kill her. So yeah, this gives us the final book needed to enter the Lost Empire, and so, with Baphomet still alive, I decide, fuck it, let's just take down the leader of the princesses and whoever caused all this to happen, whoever made this fog appear in this world. So, we speak to Leaf as we go to the gate, and she tells us what Cinderella was, and that she was given power by Leaf's mother, apparently. Who that is, I am not sure. However, Cinderella, instead, enslaved everyone and went practically insane. But before Cinderella, we have a face-off against a giant maze, and it ends with a final roadblock. That being Beauty LaBelle. Now, her fight and duel is hard, but nothing too major. As defeating her, we are actually given an option of either executing her or letting her live. Pro tip, by the way, just kill her. Like, if you want the true ending of the game, I made the mistake of letting her go, which just ended up wasting me time finding her later, so just fucking kill her. But with her out of the way, what do we have left now? Well, there's 2 more things. First is the Garden of Grief, and then another maze, but also, right before Cinderella's throne, we find ourselves facing her last 2 guards. Now, these 2 function sort of like Ornstein and Smaug from Dark Souls 1, though here they're kind of like a bit different. They're called Sun Apollo and Wind Boreas. There's a whole thing there, but basically, once they're down, the last person we have to take on is Cinderella. She waits for us, and she monologues about spreading the fog in this world because it's corrupted. This world is built on unnatural inequality, and this is her way of destroying this corrupted world. We then take her on. The ash-clad princess then fights us, and her first form is that of a regular bride in a white dress. However, quickly that facade fades, and we see her for what she truly is, a grotesque monster. But if we defeat her, a fog appears in front of us, and we have the option of touching it ourselves, or we can touch it together with someone else. The only option that's prompted for us now is Leaf. Doing this will give us the game's, well, first and most simple ending. This leads to us returning to the Holy Forest with Leaf and living happily ever after with her, and this is it. Yeah, it's a good ending. At least that's what it seems like. We live happily ever after, and the kingdom has been saved. At least that's what it seems like. But then there is the other option, which is us doing this on our own, right? Like actually doing it on our own instead of having her join us. But this is a bit different, because if I redid the fight against Cinderella and instead touched the fog on my own, it says the following: "The truth is there, waiting." The fuck was that laugh? Why did I do that laugh? Either way, this instantly made me a little suspicious. Like, something didn't feel right about either of those 2 endings. The first one was Leaf's good ending, like, that's one of them. But the other one was just ending B. At least that's what it's referred to. But what does it even mean? And what is the truth is there waiting referring to? So I decided to Google if there are multiple endings, and dear fucking God, does this game have many endings. You see, I have only explored and seen like 1/10 of what this game has to offer, and I would recommend highly play the game yourself, okay? Play the game yourself to see all the endings and all the different companions if you really wish to have a complete experience of this game.
Because I'm telling you right now, because of the amount of NPCs that you can have as companions, which I'm going to show you all of them here really quickly because there really are quite a few. First of all, you can take Black Condemner Miranda, she's one of them. We have Leaf, of course, which we got one of the endings. You got Jean, of course, the knight herself. You got Maid Victoria. You've got Match Seller Elma, which we already met. Red Hood is another one. The Rich Bird Goose, Saint Catherine, Soul Lady Elizabeth, and of course, Dorothy. Now, these are all people that we can have special endings with, right? Which approximately comes out to like, what, 10 or so, give or take? There's like 10 different endings with each one of these, and each one of these characters has a good and a bad ending. But that's not the endings that I care about, because those aren't as interesting as ending C and ending D. So let's start with the first one. For ending C, we need to do something very particular. We need to kill everyone. And see, this is where the moral part of this game's journey comes into play. Remember, the whole mechanic that I don't like to talk about is there, but also the fact that we can kill people is another element that we haven't spoken that much about. I mean, we've been going around taking down all these princesses and trying to do the right thing, right? Because they were causing all this stuff to happen. But we've always had the option of killing basically anyone. So if we want to get ending C, we need to take down everyone. And I really mean everyone. And there are approximately like 32 different fairy tales in this game. And we got to get every single one of them. Now, why do we need all of these fairy tales? Well, it's because if we have all these fairy tales, we can take them over and down into Neverland, or rather the rabbit hole. Here we'll find the Bandersnatch, I think that's what it's called, blocking our path. If we get rid of it, either by killing it or simply interacting with it, we'll enter inside and find Alice, or at least it's a replica of Alice. At least that's what she tells us. Alice, you guys may remember, blew up literally at the beginning, but it turns out she's just a copy of her. And once we talk to her, we learn that she's been reading all these books, all these fairy tales that we bring her. She's been enjoying them. And as we speak to her, we can then put these books into each shelf in the library. And once we put every single book in, we can speak to Alice one more time and casually just pound her, because yes, that's a thing in the game again. I don't even want to talk about it. But after doing that, she then plays a message from the original Alice, telling us that, well, she loves us, but also that this world is broken, that this world should not exist, and we, as the actual main character of this story, like she literally tells us that we are the main character of the game. She tells us we need to end this world. We need to stop it from existing because it doesn't matter. Once we've destroyed it, nobody will even remember it except us. We need to carry that burden. So with that knowledge in our mind, we can now go to the back door, which up until now has been blocked until all these books have been put into it. So the door opens. What waits on the other side is more shelves. On these ones in particular, we have to put the fairy tales of our friends. Jeanne d'Arc, even Goose, all of them. Every single person that we've been friends with and worked together with, we put all their fairy tales in here because we've had to kill them to get to this point, including the princesses too. And once we've done this, a lever appears. We are prompted several times if we want to pull it. And if we do pull the lever, all the replica Alices in the room blow up. Now we're told that the world has begun to break. Somebody laughs at us, and as we exit the room, we're in the Holy Forest. But it's completely messed up. Like, it looks essentially the same way that the most northern part of the Holy Forest looked when I first started playing the game, and everything is corrupted. The same way that I sort of felt almost off-put from playing this game very early on because of how it looked. Now that's the genuine way that this place looks. It's by design, but it's corrupting, it's destroyed, it's going to bits. Why? I don't know. Everything is completely destroyed, and as we go through the forest, we'll meet the maid.
Maiden Mary Sue has foreseen everything. She's very strong, beautiful, above all in all. Master, let's believe in Mary Sue together. This way, I can't let you through. Little Leaf, she's fighting with her friends now. You want to help her? You can. She's to become a sacrifice for Mary Sue, of course. As long as the nature exists, fairies are immortal. But now, with the nature collapsing, well, She won't revive. So please, only look at me, Master. How can I serve you? That's fine, Master. I and my beloved will kill each other.
No matter what we do, when we try to talk to Victoria the maid, it just doesn't work. And eventually we have to fight her. She's now the demon beast of desire. And she wants our soul, she wants us. She wants our soul, body, skin, meat, guts, dick and brains, everything, every single part of us. She's gone completely insane. Just like the Holy Forest, she's corrupted and gone. The fight against her is relatively fast. As she falls, we can leave and we'll find Leaf, and she's being attacked by some of the other fairies. Though even the fairies themselves don't know exactly what they're doing or why they're doing it. One of them even wonders how they ended up here. But as we fight them, we can now move on together with Leaf. The further up we go, the more deep we get. Eventually, we reach a bridge where one of the members of the Black Trial finds us. Luckily, Miranda is here. You guys may remember Miranda, but she ends up actually kind of saving us from the situation. And then we reach the top. Leaf tells us that Mary Sue isn't here, but where could she be? So we're prompted to type Mary Sue's name, her true identity. At this point, you could type a lot of things, but there's only one name that should make sense to type. And as we type that name in, she finally reveals herself. Yes, all along, Leaf has been the big baddie. She was Mary Sue, and to break this down in layman's terms, she is quite literally a self-insert. Like, the whole point of Mary Sue in this story is that she's been with us the entire journey. We, as a character, our actual name is Grimm. And she got that name from the Grimm brothers, right? The Grimm brothers, as well as a few other people. She's mixed together a bunch of different authors to create us. We, as a character, are her creation. Basically, her desire to convolute and mess up these stories, these fairy tales that have been written by authors. She basically just made these amalgamations into a messed up story. And the problem is that we've taken part of it. To get to this point, to get to this ending, we've done exactly what she wants us to do, which is to indulge in her fucked up fanfiction. That's essentially what all of this was. A messed up fanfiction from a god of creation. Because if you think about it, an author is the god of their own story, the creator of their own story, the one who decides the fate of all those characters. And in this story, she is our creator. She is the one controlling our puppet strings. She comes in 3 stages, and each time we try to take her down, the more corrupted she becomes, because eventually she, the god of creation, reaches her final form. This image is honestly kind of like a jump scare on its own, and the sounds in the background don't help, but if we defeat her, she'll be flabbergasted, genuinely surprised at the ability for her to lose this fight. But it doesn't end there. You see, now that we've taken her down in combat, our friends appear. Alice is back, and together we get some form of ending. I don't exactly know what's going on here, but doing all of that, having to kill all your friends, your companions, and actually indulge in the really messed up mechanics of this game just to get the quote-unquote true ending felt really odd and strange. What was the meaning of all this? Well, I'll talk about that specific meaning a little bit at the end of this video, but first we need to take a look at another ending, because guess what? Even this one, the one that reveals that the creator of this entire world, the reason for everything being all this sorts of fucked up, that being Leaf, of course, isn't even the final ending. There is another one, another ending that was specifically added through some sort of DLC for this game, which gives a true ending that directly leads into the second game, Black Souls 2. For this ending, we need to do something else. For this one, we need to create a covenant with Baphomet. Baphomet, of course, being the leader of the Black Trial, and as we create a covenant with her, we are tasked to go out to kill a few different people. One of those people is also the Prayer Master. You guys may remember the Prayer Master, it's the little rabbit. This is the person we have to go to if we want to level ourselves up. So killing him means that we have no way of leveling our own character up, which is kind of a problem. But doing this, though, we can then return to Baphomet, and she asks us if it's okay, if we agree for her to go and evacuate the Holy Forest. if we let her do this and then go to the Holy Forest ourselves, after quickly talking to one of the, like Heidi or whatever his name is, because he freaks out the moment he notices the Baphomet is missing. But once we go to the Holy Forest, it's again corrupted, just like in Ending C, but slightly different. There's more of a darkness taken over it. It doesn't look like everything is sort of falling apart on itself, but as we go down into the basement, we're in a black void. We meet Baphomet and Leaf, but we learn very strange things. For one, Baphomet is the mother of Leaf. These two are related, though Leaf tries to deny it. And as we agree with Leaf, we essentially have to find Baphomet. She becomes this giant amalgamation. And as we take her down, she pleads to Leaf to not end her. But Leaf just leaves her in a pool of blood. And then when our friends appear, just like in Ending C, she turns them to bloody mushes as well. They're all gone. They're all dead. Again. And Leaf just wants to create another new world with us. Not before Alice appears, though. But, again, which Alice is this? Is this the Alice replica we saw down in the library? Because for this ending, it's different. The parameters are different, so why is she here? And the way she speaks, it scares Leaf off. It seems like even Alice in the story is some sort of godly creature. Something beyond just the normal. It's really weird. And then the game ends. Once more, very, very confusing. So let's break it down like this. First of all, if you want to do all the character endings individually, it is worth it. But also, doing this, you have to indulge in the more, let's call them sexual scenes, because that's how you get context for all the different characters. Everybody in the story has some sort of background. Every princess, you could actually save them. You don't need to kill them. But doing this, doing the good, stuff, doing the good things will never give you the true answer to this game's world. Every ending that happens is just a repetition of Leaf's fucked up stories, right? Every time something goes down, you get reset and you have to do it all over again. We're stuck in a constant loop within Leaf's story, but it does explain a few things. So first of all, Leaf and Baphomet, they seem related. That seems because Leaf and the Holy Forest and this place was all protected by Leaf as she created it. She didn't allow Baphomet in. And within Leaf's story, Baphomet, as her mother, was the leader of the Black Trial. They existed specifically just there as some sort of obstacle, some sort of arbitrary thing to be there. But their goals were so just strange to me, at least like from a player perspective, like they were there to stop you from committing sins. Perhaps, in a sense, trying to stop us from progressing and doing the bad stuff, which is really weird because doing the bad stuff is the only way for us to actually get the real endings. At least that's what it seems like. And the reason for us to kill the Prayer Master was because he was the one sort of protecting the Holy Forest and not allowing Baphomet in, which is why we never really ran into the Black Trial there much. It was just, not really a problem. They wouldn't be able to go in there. On the other side, though, Leaf as a character, as Mary Sue, is sort of this, at least to me, and this is my interpretation of the game, so please, let me yap for a bit. The way I see this story, the way I see this game, right? I view it in like a few different ways. Number one, I see it as a story of fan fiction writers. I see it in the perspective of how people will take stories that others have written and then turn them into whatever they want them to be, almost to a fault. In this case, definitely to a fault, because sure, a lot of these authors that wrote these stories in the past, whether it's be, like Anderson or the Grimm's brothers, a lot of these fairy tales are genuinely disturbing, and them being for children, if you really think about it, is really strange because a lot of them have those writers' emotions and just, thoughts very heavily, deeply inserted, which tells these stories that can be very off-putting if you take the time to read them. Like, they are not stories meant for little children. They are stories that are deeply disturbing at times. But it doesn't end there. You also then have people taking those stories and turning them to different things. If you take the most extreme one side and the other side of this, we're talking about something like Disney stories. The Little Mermaid in Disney is a beautiful, sometimes disturbing, but mostly kind of cute story.
But then you have the opposite end, which is Black Souls, where the Little Mermaid is someone that you can do heinous things towards, and it's really messed up. But then in between there, you have the real story of the Little Mermaid, right? The actual story written by the actual author, and even that one has a lot of disturbing elements to it. But it feels like what we're seeing here is that author's work led into many different directions, which were not the original intention. At least to me, the first way I view this game is that it is a game all about how somebody can take another's work and twist it and turn into whatever they want. How we're all creators of our own stories and how we can twist and turn those into whatever we want to. But the second thing is that this game is trying to challenge you as the viewer, not in a super deep way, but just in a surface level way. Why are you doing these things? Right? Like if you play the game the way I played it, which was to just play the game normally, get a few companions like Dorothy and Jean and, Leaf, have them on my side, complete the game by taking down the princesses, which is a very standard plot line. However, the truth behind this plotline is that it's all fake. It exists there specifically for that reason, but Leaf even tells us that she is happy that we finally discovered the truth, that we discovered that she's the mastermind behind all this, because she thinks it's boring. It's boring to watch us simply do the good thing. She wants us to be corrupt. That's why the option exists there. And the funny part is, you as the player, you will interact with that mechanic purely to see what the story holds. What else is beyond it? What is the real story? What is the truth? So in the end, you are the bad guy of the main story, but you are also the main character. You indulged in it. You indulged in this messed up fanfiction writing. You indulged in her messed up world, even though you didn't have to. If you quit playing the game, you wouldn't have had to take part in it, but you kept playing. So you are complicit in that world. You're complicit in this fucked up story that she's telling. And that is genuinely really messed up. But hey, it makes the actual game far more interesting. And I'm going to be honest with you, I am very much talking about this on a surface level. There is so much more depth. Every single character in this game has individually been explained, and they all have deeper stories, and you have to do a lot of just really weird stuff. You have to do a lot of let's call it romancing to get some of the endings for the different characters, to learn their backstories. All of that is more compact if you go play it yourself, which I would recommend because the game is not super expensive and it is on Steam. Though if you want to get the game's complete version, you need to download a mod from their official website that basically uncensors the game, because Steam kind of bans games like this nowadays due to the whole Visa and MasterCard bans. So if you want to get the complete version of the game and actually get all the, kind of disturbing stuff added into, you will need to go download a mod for that, which I would recommend. Definitely do. You can, of course, censor the game, which even if you do that, you can still get a big part of the plot still, given to you, though you will miss on a lot of stuff. So I would recommend just get that mod and you can get a better, bigger picture. And there's some great videos on YouTube that go deeper into the lore of each one of these characters, and Reddit's a great place as well if you have any questions about it, because I'll be honest, if I sat here to make a video about every single companion, all their stories, and all the different endings for each one of them, I'd be sitting here for the next 10 hours explaining things to you, which I do not have the time for, and I think you guys would have a more enjoyable time experiencing those yourself. But yeah, my conclusion is that this game is all about creation of stories, but also the corruption of those stories. How once you put a piece of art into the world, it's no longer your art. I mean, no matter how much of yourself you put into it, people will interpret it and change it in whatever way they want to, right? And in the case of this game, all those stories were kind of amalgamated into this messed up thing. We as the main character, we are those authors. We embody all those different authors as Grimm. We embody everything about them. The good, the terrible, and the bad, and the jarring at times too. But that's it. So a massive shout out to Noiki for letting me feature his amazing Black Souls 1 trailer here at the end, just for you guys to see. Please check out his channel. It's going to be linked down below. And also, just all credits to the different people whose like art and stuff I was able to feature in this video. If I remember to make sure to link everyone. If I don't, you can always just email me if I missed your name. But yeah, that's it. If you guys want me to cover Black Souls 2, please let me know in the comment section down below. Make sure to check out our Patreon if you want to support me and get your chance to get a custom drawn Pepe by yours truly. And yeah, that is it. I want to thank you all for watching. Join our Discord if you want to chat with me and, you know, meet some of the other people of the community, and subscribe for more videos. And I'll see you all in the next one. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen.